Today we're going to check out two of the best contenders for night vision in the $500 range, the NVG30, which has dominated the market for the past year, and the NVG50, which was designed to be an upgrade to the NVG30. We're going to take a look at these units side by side, compare their performance, and I'll leave you with my thoughts on these two devices to help you decide which one of these is best for you to buy and whether or not you should upgrade an existing setup. As always, there will be links down in the description to my affiliated website Goodnight Gear, and you can save 10% on anything on the website using the coupon code US10. We're going to start off with a quick side-by-side view, and they're both pretty similar in size, but the NVG50 is slightly shorter and more compact, and weight-wise with the batteries they're pretty close at 264 grams on the NVG50 and about 272 grams on the NVG30. The finish on the NVG50 has a bit more texture and it's less reflective, and on the NVG30 it's a bit smoother and shinier. The button layout and the UI is pretty similar, and the buttons seem to be a little bit more responsive and easy to press on the 30. One of the biggest upgrades is switching from a half-inch ultra-low illuminance CMOS sensor made from a Chinese brand to a slightly larger 1/1.8-inch Sony sensor on the new NVG50, and we're going to be diving deeper into a performance comparison a little later in the video. Keep in mind that some of the photos and videos we're going to be looking at were taken using a smartphone held up to the eyepiece, and they are magnified, so they aren't always as well focused or as clear as the experience you'd be getting if you were using the device itself, and it does create some distortion around the edges which would normally not be present. There is some conflicting information I've seen about the field of view being 45 degrees or 40 degrees on the NVG50, and here they are side by side with the NVG30's 40-degree field of view, and they do appear to be pretty much identical, and I'm not seeing much difference there. The diameter of the focus wheel on both of these devices is 23 millimeters, so both the NVG50 and the NVG30 are compatible with the same wide-angle lens mod, and these slip right over the existing lens, and this is one of the best upgrades for either one of these devices as it increases the field of view quite substantially. Both still have a built-in 940nm IR illuminator, and they move the position of the illuminator above the lens of the NVG50. The IR light on both of these devices is incredibly faint and barely noticeable to the human eye, and the beam pattern on the NVG50 is more diffuse, which is better in the peripherals, and it's more well suited for short-range navigation, and the beam pattern on the NVG30 is more concentrated and it has a bit more of a hotspot to it, so it is more usable at longer ranges. Another noticeable change has been a switch from an 18650 battery on the NVG30 to a pair of 18350s on the NVG50, and my guess is that this is probably done to shorten the overall length. 18350s are less common and tend to have lower capacities, so I decided to perform a runtime test with the built-in IR illuminator on level 1 and the screen brightness set to its highest setting, and I was able to run the NVG50 for about 4 hours and 53 minutes and the NVG30 for about 5 hours and 48 minutes. So the NVG30 still does have a reasonable advantage in the runtime category, but keep in mind that if you're not running any IR lighting, you will get a lot more runtime from each of these devices. Both units also have port covers that house a USB-C port that can charge or power the device when it's on, which opens you up to some pretty cool external power options like running a power bank as a counterweight, and this is a great option for extending the runtime of your setup and balancing for helmet mounted use. The NVG50 also has the option of running a dedicated external power supply, which you can connect to this port here, and this is another option for those of you looking to extend your runtime. You can find the mounting options on top, and they've switched from a 5-screw setup on the NVG30 to 3 screws on the NVG50, and the included mounts are identical. Both come with a dovetail adapter, and while there are some good Wilcox compatible options for the NVG30, I've not been able to successfully pair this with anything for the NVG50. One new option with the NVG50 is a pick rail mount that comes included, and this is going to give you the ability to mount the device to a rail, and this is also compatible with the NVG30 and the BTI-10 thermal monocular. However, it's not something that's included with those two devices. You can run both of these as binos, but there are a few differences between the compatible bridge options. The NVG30 is compatible with a few more options, including the L4G24 Wilcox bridge combo, which is a very robust and adjustable setup, and also with Wild Game Plus's bridge, which is a bit less adjustable, but it's about half the price. Due to how low the eyepiece sits in relation to the mounting plate, the NVG50 works best with the Wild Game Plus bridge, and it doesn't work with any of the L4G4 mounting solutions currently on the market, which is a little bit of a disappointment. Significant improvements were also made to the internal viewing screen, which was upgraded from a 1920 by 1080 OLED on the NVG30, which was already pretty good compared to most other budget night vision devices, to a sharper 2560 by 1440 OLED, and you definitely do notice an improvement in clarity and detail when you look through the NVG50. Both of these devices also have built-in compasses, which seem to be relatively accurate to within 5 to 20 degrees in most instances, and at the moment we're performing this test indoors, so I'm pretty impressed that both of these devices are able to do as well as they are. Previous versions of the NVG30's built-in compass were less reliable, but recent production on these compasses have been better. Another noticeable upgrade in performance with the NVG50 is a reduction in latency, which is visible when we turn off a light source from in front of these devices. Both are running at 40 frames per second, and while it might be tough to notice in real time, if we slow things down and move frame by frame, we do see that the NVG50 is at least a few frames ahead of the NVG30 in reacting to the change of light, and this slight improvement is definitely something that's going to give you an advantage when it comes to rapid movement and navigation with the device. However, the NVG30 is still significantly faster compared to other budget night vision devices. Now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some performance comparison, and this test was performed in a dark garage with no IR lighting and very little ambient lighting present. On the left hand side we have the NVG50 and the NVG30 set to 30 frames per second, and this is a screenshot from their onboard recorder. To the right of these, we have the NVG50 and the NVG30 set to 40 frames per second, and you can see that both of these images are a little bit darker. And to the right of that, we have the NVG50 and the 30 at 30 frames per second, with a photo taken through the device itself, which is a more accurate representation of the true user experience. And finally, to the right, we have a Gen 2 Plus PVS14 to give you an idea of how the performance of analog differs. Overall, the low light, no IR performance is pretty comparable between the 30 and the 50, with perhaps a very slight advantage going to the 50. The rest of the footage we're going to be looking at is recorded via the device's onboard recording. Overall, there's no doubt that the NVG50 is an upgrade in a lot of ways to the 30. I would recommend the NVG50 for those of you who are looking for a more competitive advantage for movement and navigation, because the latency is less and the built-in IR illuminator has a better pattern for close quarters. The improvement in the screen resolution combined with the Sony sensor does also help to provide a slightly more detailed, higher quality image, which is a nice upgrade too, and my overall sense is that it's just a better device. If you're new to digital and want to get the best performing night vision under $500, there's no doubt that this is the best option on the market, and it's a great place to start out. Now, there are a few instances where you might find yourself better off with the NVG30. The price was recently dropped down on the NVG30, and with the 10% discount code US10, you're coming in at about $400.50, which is a great deal considering how good the device performs compared to the $595 you end up paying for the NVG50 after the same discount code is applied. So there's nearly $100 cost savings to go with the NVG30. If you already have an NVG30 and want to upgrade to binos, this would be a less expensive route for you to go compared to purchasing a pair of NVG50s with a bridge. There is also a much wider selection of options for helmet mounting capabilities, and if you want something more robust, there is more out there on the market for the NVG30 at the moment. As always, feel free to drop your comments down below, and I'll do my best to answer any of the questions you guys might have about the NVG30 or the NVG50, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future digital night vision content. And again, you can support this channel by using the coupon code US10 to shop at Goodnight Gear.